Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome back to another author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. Many of you know me as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill. And joining us today is an author making their official debut here on the channel. Now, my guest, originally from Scotland, but now living lakeside on Australia's gorgeous East Coast. She escapes her life as a copywriter by creating spicy romantasy filled with Scottish folklore, beautiful book boyfriends, and fantasy worlds you will love to get lost in. And in today's interview, viewers and listeners, I and my guests will be talking about her book, which I am so excited to have and to talk all about. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause to our guest today, author Jules Dalla Libera. Jules, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, Jules. Awesome. So excited to have you here. Now, for people just meeting you for the first time, do you have a copy of your book to showcase the viewers and give them a teaser of what to expect?
Okay. So that's the book, That One Small Spark. It launched in beginning of November. Do you want me to give you a bio just now, or is that coming up later?
As a little teaser to get the readers enticed.
Sure. So it's set in 1590s Scotland during the infamous Scottish witch trials. So it follows Elspeth, our main character, and so her best friend is accused of witchcraft, and so she finds out that her friend actually is a witch, and she was granted her powers by the Queen of Fairy. So Elspeth decides to try and save her. She goes to Fairy to try and get the assistance of the Queen, and along the way meets like a whole bunch of like Scottish folklore characters, creatures, all kind of beasties and everything. So yeah, that's the general idea. Yeah.
Nice, very, very nice. Can't wait. So before diving into the behind the scenes of your book, Jules, let's talk a little bit more about you. Now, that's a little icebreaker question. What's a random fact about you that not a lot of people know about?
So I've been a copywriter for the past 15 years. So before that, it took me quite a while to find my place in the world. So I went to uni and I studied history, Scottish history, and then I decided that wasn't for me, and then I dropped out and trained to be a mechanic. So looking at me now, you probably wouldn't see mechanic, but yeah, that was one of the hats that I have, from my past. I don't know it now, but yeah, it was an interesting point in my life. So.
Awesome. All right. And that kind of leads into the next question. So, as a copywriter, how did that transition into becoming an author? I know in your bio that you worked at night, sort of like writing your own stories, but do you have a definitive aha moment of when you decided to pursue this path of becoming an author?
Yeah, so it was about 3 years ago, and I remember it was just a point where I was going, with copywriting, the day-to-day gets a bit kind of, you're writing about a lot of the same things when you've been doing it for so long, it gets a bit samey. And so when I'm reading, like, that's my escape. And so I figured, well, maybe I can find my escape, find something new, like transformative in writing a book. So I started researching the Scottish witch trials that the book's based around, and I went, I can write a whole book about this. I can create a fantasy and escape for other people, and that's where it started off. And I was just going, well, let me see if I can write more than just about houses and real estate and beauty and travel and everything. Let me see if I can actually write a book that other people will love as much as I love other people's books. So.
Awesome. Now, were you always a very creative person growing up, or did that come later in life when you were in your uni years?
I'd probably say fairly creative. So when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an author. So when I was younger, I wrote my own books, and I illustrated them, and I bound them, and I gave them to gifts, like for family, for Christmases and stuff. So I think it was always there. I just needed to find my way back to it after going off to live life and get experience, because I think that's important as an author, to have life experience to put in your books and to feel all the emotions and everything. So yeah, I think I did it the right way round. But
Awesome. All right. So now they talk about the behind the scenes, the creation of this book. So let's start at the very beginning. So as you were researching the Scottish witch trials and, gathering all the information to build the story from that point, what really surprised you about drafting the story initially? What really surprised you about that?
I think it was just kind of, it was the kind of jump between like the real life, what actually happened, to weave a story around that would make people interested in like what happened. Like, it's already really interesting, the whole witch trial story and everything, but to kind of bring it forward to to readers who would want to read now. So you're kind of making into a story that they'd love to read. So you've got that really interesting, gritty backstory of the witches, and then how to bring that into, like a story where, like you've got the main character and the things she goes through and her romance and all the exciting things that I love to read about. So I think it was sorry, this is Brick, he's whining. But yeah, so it was just that that was the challenge for me, was to make it into something that people would want to read and also really understand that important part of Scottish history. So
Absolutely. So then we're going to step into we're now going to step into some fan questions that I've gathered from my viewers and listeners. And one fan would like to know, would you consider yourself a planner or a pantser when it came to writing this book?
a planner or what?
A pantser, being a very spontaneous writer.
Okay, I've not heard of that before. I would be mostly a planner. So when I first start writing, so when I was planning the book, I managed to put the book into, say, like about 3 or 4 typed pages. So I knew where I was going, and from there I just started writing, and then it carried on from there. So it was just like, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. This is this chapter, this is this chapter, this is this chapter. But yeah, planner, and then see how it goes. But yeah,
Absolutely.
It's very linear. I know some authors like jump around and go, this scene, this scene, this scene. I was just like, no, it needs to be all the way through, just like you read a book. So
Yes, very true, especially for a book like this that has its own ties to history. And that kind of goes into the next set of fan questions. Let's talk about the characters. So since these characters are placed in a pinnacle point in Scottish history, how did you ensure that the characters felt authentic to the time period that they were existing in?
So I did a lot of research. I try and place my main character. So she's a widow. So she's in her kind of late 20s. Women didn't have, like they weren't granted very many rights. But as a widow, she was given I wanted her to have a bit more independence, for her to struggle for independence and not feel dependent on a man. So I was trying to put that in. And I understand it's not going to be from the same point of view as now, where women are just like, I will be my own person and I've got I can do everything. But I want her to be struggling for that. So I think that was a main focus in my book. But yeah, so I say in the beginning of the book as well. So for historical accuracy, yes, I go for historical accuracy in like the witch trials and everything the witches went through. But also in terms of language, I don't stick to authentic language of what they used then. Like I'm not throwing in our slang or anything like that. I make it very easy to read. I'm not going back into how they actually spoke in Scots back in the 1590s, because that is right. It's hard to get into, and I want this to be like an effortless read. You're in the moment and everything like that. I don't want to be pulled out with like all these strange words that people understood back then but probably wouldn't understand now. So
absolutely, it's that fine balancing act of, you want to be authentic to the time period, the history and the culture of the 1500s, but you don't want to be too historical in the sense of not everyone's probably going to understand the language of the characters. You've like made some teasers or like some references, but a very seamless book, which I think is very, very true. Now, This next question may be a little difficult for you, Jules. A lot of authors have struggled with this fan question. Out of the main characters, who is your favorite and who is the most challenging?
So it's not hard, because if you if you like fantasy, if you like romantasy, then usually a lot of people like their book boyfriends. Like, that's one of the reasons why you read romantasy, because you have these amazing book boyfriends that you can fall in love with yourself, and you can fall along with alongside the main character, the female main character. So I would have to say that my favorite is he's my book boyfriend. He's Law. He's the male main character. I don't know. It's just, yeah, because I'm the author, I can kind of create him as I want. So I create like this perfect, he's really supportive of her, but he's also a bit dangerous, and he's got all these incredible magic, and yeah, it's just he's my favorite. Did you say who is most challenging?
Yes, who was probably the most challenging of all your characters to write and like really flesh out?
It's always going to be the main character, because you're living through her eyes, you're living her life. So you want to make sure that everything she's experiencing is authentic and valid. And how would I feel in this situation? How does she feel in this situation? How do I relate that to the people who are reading the book as well? So it's always going to be that main character, because you want her to be like someone that people relate to, and like all the things that she's feeling, you want to be feeling too. So that would be my greatest challenge. Like, I still loved it. I love doing it, but definitely that's where, the emphasis is in her character, her feelings.
Absolutely. Very true. Very, very true, Jules. Now, as you were planning this whole book out, what was the goal you had for this book initially? And ultimately, when you were writing it, what was the promise you're making, not just to yourself as the author, but to your prospective readers and fans of the genre?
So what was my goal in writing the book initially?
Yes. What was your initial goal when writing this book?
It was that idea of escape. I wanted to provide that to readers. I wanted to make a whole world that people could get lost in. Like, that's the thing about reading. You want to get completely just captivated by what you're reading. You want to get lost in worlds. You want to get lost in the romance. You want to get, just forget about all the other things in life that are so hard, and just to lose yourself in another world. And that's what I wanted to be able to create in this book myself. I wanted for people to read it, for to forget about life for, however, 10, 12 hours, how long it takes to read it. And so that was really my goal. It was just like, I wanted to give other people what other authors have given me. So
Nice. Now, this next question is another fan question. And this fan would like to know, as also a copywriter, how do you balance out the two, your responsibilities for that job, but also your passion as a writer for your own projects? How do you balance the two?
do you really ever? So I'm freelance copywriter as well. So work does go up and down. So sometimes I might have a busy day, sometimes I might have a quiet day. So usually in my quiet days, that's when I'm trying to put a bit more towards my book. But if it's really busy, it's been really busy the past couple of weeks, and I'm trying to edit book 2 right now, and there's not much brain space left for it. So yeah, it's hard to balance, and especially because you've got life as well. Like, you've got adulting, I've got the dogs, I've got my daughter, I've got the house. It's just all the things. I just try and go, when can I fit it in? I will make time. When I was writing the book, I might sometimes be up to 2, 3 in the morning, because I get completely caught up in it, and you kind of just you're not feeling great the next day, but you feel great because you've put some more into the book. So I guess it's just trying to make time, don't make excuses, and procrastinate over it, and just
Absolutely, very true.
I know what I'm doing. I actually love it, but you're just going, oh, the dishes need done, or this needs done, or whatever.
Or you need to go to bed and not stay up till like 1 in the morning when you had to go to work. I've had a lot of people on the show that have shared that story, and I myself am guilty of that I'm a night owl when it comes to writing. I try not to stay up too late, but when you get lost in your own worlds, it's hard to break away sometimes. But sometimes we do have to break away because, as we'll touch on later, being a writer is not easy, but we do our best when we have a nice clear head.
Yes. So yeah, just getting that clear head space, that's the goal.
Very true. Very true. So now going forward, in your journey as an author, still in like the very beginning, this next question, again, a lot of authors have had different answers on, Jules, and it is the notion of claiming the title of being an author. I know a lot of people I've had on the show have shared their experiences that they told their family from the get-go that they were authors, and some have waited until their book was published and gained a lot in sales, so they told them, hey, I'm also an author. There is that hesitancy to claim ownership because there is a debate of, am I an author or am I a writer? And I would just like to know your thoughts on, first, that distinction between what is the difference between, a writer versus an author. And secondly, when did you feel comfortable in telling your friends and family that you not only were working on your first book, but you also had published your first book?
It's totally true. There's this whole imposter syndrome that you get when you first start, writing books. You're just going, oh, like I wrote a book, but like it's not being picked up by a traditional publisher, and like I can't say I'm an author because people are just like, oh, what have you written? Have I heard of it? And you're like, no, you won't have. But it's a really hard thing. But so I think my family's always been really supportive. So I've got my parents live in Scotland. I've got a sister in Canada, a sister in the US. So we all keep in touch mostly through Messenger and everything. And so when I think it was when I'd finished pretty much finished writing the book. And then I told them that I'd written it, and then so they read the first draft, which I obviously thought was finished and absolutely wasn't. But they've been so supportive, and then certain friends as well who I know are readers. Like I gave them like the beta version, and everyone has been so supportive that it's been amazing. Like that was for the launch, and so many people turned up, and I felt like, oh wow, I've made it, and it was so surreal, and everyone was talking about my book, and I was signing it, and that was a big moment for me where it felt like, oh, I'm actually author. I think, I guess seeing the point where you go, I think I actually might be an author is, when you see it up on Amazon and you're just going, oh, there's my book there with all those other people's books. But yeah, I think there's always going to be that imposter syndrome where you're reading other people's books and you're just going, this is amazing. I love this book so much. I'll never ever be able to reach the heights of this author in this book. And you're going, what's the point of even trying? And then you the next day and you're just like, you read a bit of your book and you're like, oh, that's actually quite good. That's I'm doing okay. So it's up and down, always up and down. But yeah, I think it's always between indie publishers or indie publishing and traditional publishing. I think outside the very bookish world, I think if you tell someone that you are an author and they'll be like, oh, I self-published, there's some people who go, oh no, well, that's not proper author. So it's tough. It's different people. Some people are just like, you're doing an amazing job, and other people going, well, I don't think you're an author until you get traditionally published. So.
Absolutely, very true. And you actually did touch on something that we are going to be covering when we get to the business side of being author, Jules. So thank you for that. And going back to the launch of your book back in November, what was that reaction like? And what were the general, consensus, the feedback like from people who had already, may have beta read a version before you published it, and those picking it up for the very first time?
Well, I think the response was really good because, when you've got a supportive bunch of friends, then it's amazing. But I think for a lot of them, so the people who bought my book, and a lot of them either weren't readers or weren't fantasy readers. So the response was positive. They were just going, I wouldn't normally read this. I am not a fantasy reader. I'm not a book reader, but I found this book really easy to get into. I love the whole experience. And what I was looking for was, like that whole escape. They were just going, I loved slipping into this different world and meeting all these different characters. And just to get to hear those kind of responses was really nice, to know that I created a book where people can, kind of walk into, even if they're not readers. because reading is my life. I love reading. I read so much. And for me to be able to, to pass it on to other people who might not normally read or might not need to read fantasy, then that's incredible. So
Nice. Awesome. And now that kind of leads into, well, I think you already covered a little bit, but now we're going to go more in depth of what it means to be an author in the digital age, because the industry has certainly changed over the last 20, 30 years of, for a long time. And almost as you mentioned and covered too, Jules, that when you tell people that you are an indie author, there is that little slight disdain or hesitancy to acknowledge that indie publishing is, the same as traditional publishing in terms of quality, even though back in the day, many people viewed indie publishing or even small press publishing and hybrid publishing as a lesser form of publishing compared to trad. But over the last 20, 30 years, and social media has played a huge role in this, along with the internet, indie books, hybrid books, and small press books are on the same level as trad. And it's sometimes very difficult to tell which book is indie and which book is traditionally published because the quality and standards have gotten so good. But with that said, social media, indie, internet are a double-edged sword. Because yes, while it does allow us to connect with readers and reviewers, fellow authors all over the world, we unfortunately do leave ourselves exposed to a lot of negativity, hate speech, trolling, and our imposter syndrome and our writer's block is heightened because on one end, people will make comparisons and we'll be wondering, should we even be in that same category of authors because we're still new, still very green? Or people are asking, when's the next book coming out? When's the next book coming out? And you do not know how you're going to write a sequel or another book in the same universe. It's a little overwhelming. So with that said, Jules, what disciplined you to stay true to yourself as you were writing, editing, formatting, and getting this book ready for publication?
well, I think for me, it was like I didn't have all those kind of outside influences when I was first writing the book because, well, it took me about, 2.5, 3 years to actually, get through the whole process of it. So I did not spend that much time. I know a lot of others do, and they say that you should be getting onto social media and you should be promoting your book before you, some people do it before they even start writing. They're just like, I'm an author and here's all my things. So I was able to really kind of separate myself from that space. And because it was also private and all my beta readers were, people I know, and my, my family, friends and everything. So it was a safe space up until the point where I started sending them out for ARCs. And so that was when it was people who didn't know me. And then, so you had no, they didn't have, they didn't care what they said about me. That was the point, I think, where you're getting completely outside opinions of your books are coming back to you. And that's where you have to learn to, I guess, grow some thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take on board the criticism that is worthy. And then you need to learn to brush off what's not, because otherwise you're just never going to write again. And I think it's just kind of putting yourself in a bubble and just going, I love writing. I'm going to continue writing. This is my book. I'm writing it for myself and for people who will love the book. I'm not writing it for people who go out there and just want to say bad things about all books and put other people down. Because I know there's a lot of that in social media. And so far, since I've been on social media and interacting as an author, it's all been really positive. People who have said that, have reviewed the book and they're just like, I really like it. There's been some things that have come back and said, maybe you could change that. And I actually have taken that on board and it's been important. It's actually done some good things for my book. But yeah, I think it's just that I'm in a bubble. I'm doing this for me, and everything outside of that, it's not worth my time, because otherwise you're never going to sleep. You're never going to write again. You're just always going to be anxious about what everyone else thinks.
Yes. Beautifully said, Jules. Beautifully said. And this goes into another discussion, more of a debate that I've been seeing of whether or not we are in a golden age or an iron age. And I'll get some context for this question. Now, I've been doing this show for about 7 years, now going on 8 years. I've been on Spotify and YouTube now. And from all the authors and fellow creators that I've had on the show, a lot of us began our careers back in 2020 when the lockdown started. And that's when everybody, reinvented themselves. We were isolated from our friends and family, and we had to keep busy. And a lot of us indies turned to creativity. And through those, initial dark periods, new stories were being written, new talents were emerging, new skills were being developed. And ultimately, when things started getting a little bit better, the floodgates, took everything by storm. And some people have argued that, is the market too oversaturated? Yes, possibly with new material. But as things have gotten settled over the last few years, there has been a shift in the publishing world between those that are passionate about the industry and those that want to make a quick buck. And that ties into the rise of generative AI being used to publish books on a larger scale that is mass producing creativity in a false light. So ultimately, Jules, tying everything together, in your opinion, from your own experiences, do you believe that we are in a golden age, or have we transitioned into this iron age period?
Yeah, the whole AI, we're using books, using AI to write books. There's so much on social media just now, and it's just there's other people who are be able to say it like her, who be able to talk about it way better than I am. But I think the whole idea of, like using AI to push out more books, to, to flood the market, to create, like, I don't think you've got the depth of like stories if you're just, it's that whole thing of quantity over quality. If you're just pushing it more and more and more, the quality is not going to be as good. It's better to focus on fewer and trying to get like that amazing story than having loads of books and for them to be kind of but yeah, the whole AI thing is it's hard for me as a copywriter too, because it's taking over my industry too. So there's a lot of people who are going, why do I need to pay you as a person, as a human, to create stuff that I can just go, here, whatever AI generator that I'm going to use, like I'm going to create that. Because it's not actually that good what AI produces. Like I've not do it, but like from what I've read, so I do a lot of real estate copywriting. So I'll look at other people's, other agents' copy, and they've used AI. I'm just like, this is awful. Who's reading this and who's going, oh yeah, that makes good sense, and I really want to buy this house now. When I write something, I try and make it worthwhile. I try and make it interesting for another human to read. And it's the same with stories. I don't think you're ever going to get a worthy story where a computer's written it. It's not going to happen.
That is very true.
So no, I'd much prefer to have, like a selection of, 100 great books to read than like 10,000 books that are mediocre. So
absolutely. And also, just to add on to that, for people who use AI like ChatGPT or any form of software to create content, you are not an author, you are an editor. And this actually goes into another fan question, which actually someone brought up in a previous interview. And I would like to hear your thoughts on this. And your opinion, Jules, do you think that for anyone who does use AI to generate books, that on the cover of said books, it should not be authored by so-and-so, but instead be programmed by? The argument being that you didn't write the book, you just programmed the software to give you a book.
Yes, absolutely. I think that would be a great thing, because then you know exactly what you're stepping into before you read it. I've never heard of that as a concept, but yeah, I do. I really like that, because it's not like you're putting, like, as an author, you're putting a bit of yourself, a bit of your soul into your book. If you're just kind of giving like AI bullet points about what you want to write, that's not your soul. That's a computer generated something. So yeah, I think it should actually be put on books if that was possible. So
Absolutely, 100%. And this now goes into the business side of being an author. Now, as an icebreaker question, I think we already touched on this, Jules, but maybe you can go a little more in depth. So, leading up to the launch party of your book, how did you market it? And then after the launch of your book, looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Oh yeah, well, I'm not good. I'm not a born marketer. Yes, I'm a copywriter, so technically I market, like that is my job. But it's very different looking at someone else's product and just going, here, this is, like, and being able to sell it because it's someone else's product. The whole idea of just going, this is me, this is my book, that's so much harder. Because there's, it's so close to you, it's so much part of you. And then for you to be going, I'm amazing, this book's amazing, like it's not a natural thing to do, especially, like in Australia. Like it's not, there's this thing called tall poppy syndrome. So if you rise above the other people, everyone else, like they're just like, oh, you've got too high, you think too much of yourself, and like that's not a good thing. So you've somehow got to be able to sell yourself while staying humble and also trying to get people's attention too. So like it's very it's a fine line to walk. I think in the lead up to my book, I did the usual things. So I have like zero budget because indie it's not.
Yes.
So it's spending time on TikTok, on Instagram, just trying to create content that's going to catch people's eye, and then just most of the time feeling like you're just shouting into the wind like a lot of the time. I think the biggest thing I did was doing the ARCs, so the advanced reader copies. So I went through an agency for that because that was easier, because they were dealing with everything. So I got obviously a lot of reviews from that through Goodreads and some on Amazon. And so people would post it on their social media too. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that got the book out there. But in terms of doing anything different, I don't think I could have done anything different unless I had a whole heap of money to throw at it. Mm-hmm. So, for this book coming up, the next one, I've got one of my friends I met through Instagram, and so she's into the indie author world. She's now moving into not just from doing reviews of everything, but she's actually looking into helping authors and becoming an author's PA. So I've got some of her, like I'm getting her help on board as well, and hopefully getting a beta team, a street team out, so hopefully getting people who love the book, and then it's just, like you say, it's the things you learn as you're going, and just hoping with each book you kind of do it a little bit better, and then, hopefully one day everyone will know about my book. So.
Absolutely, Jules. Absolutely. Now let's talk about another aspect of the business side, and that's, of course, understanding the audience, understanding the reader. Now, for us authors, we are the target audience first and foremost. We know the book better than anyone else. But when we market our book, we also have to understand that the audience is an integral role because, and there's something that isn't talked about, they have certain expectations that they are looking for in said books. And for Romantasy, it's no exception. There has been a lot of authors on the show who are Romantasy writers, and they have told me in great detail some of the expectations their audience was looking for. And it's this balance of author integrity and individuality, but understanding the genre and being marketable for said genre. And it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming. You don't want to be too familiar to be seen as a knockoff, but not too original to confuse anybody. So ultimately, Jules, for you, how did you balance these two scales when writing for your audience? Or did you even take the audience into consideration and just simply wrote the book for you as if this is a book you wish you had read when you had it?
I think it was more of that, yeah. So, because I read a lot of romantasy, a lot of fantasy. I know what I love, I know what I don't like, and I think it's just that for me, I think it's easier to create a book that that you will love, because I fit in the character. I fit in like the section of I like a lot of fantasy, romantasy readers. So I'm just like, if I love it, I think there will be other people out there that love it too. And I don't think you can't write to other people to please other people. Otherwise, you're never going to be pleased with the book yourself. So
Yes, that is 100% correct. Now, as authors, we are always inspired by stories we've read growing up, as well as having them influence our writing one way or another. What would you say are some of the books and or authors who have played an integral role in shaping this book and possibly the follow-up?
So I think because the biggest ones is always going to be the ACOTAR series, because that's what all Romantasy readers, well, pretty much a lot of the Romantasy readers have read. So A Court of Thorn of Roses, Sarah J. Maas, she's like the benchmark for Romantasy. And, you know, she's had the big news recently that she's got the next 2 books in the series coming out. So I think it was actually, yeah, you were talking about, you know, COVID and lockdown before. So back in 2020, that was, I read it for book club, the first book. And then because I was always a big reader before that. And I had read fantasy. I had, you know, like I love sci-fi and I love that whole, you know, like the 2 genres of, you know, that kind of very escapism for me. But getting into Romantasy, that put me on a track to read, just work my way through fantasy. Like, I think I pretty much read Romantasy for maybe like 4 years solidly and nothing else. So I think that was where, you know, like I took the inspiration of just going, this is a whole other world that you can get lost in. You've got your incredible book boyfriends and her books, and then just obviously making it my own. So obviously it's not the same, but I would say that that was the biggest, the biggest, I don't know, inspiration, because it's a whole world of fairies and creatures and, you know, fantasy, and, you know, it was just a whole world and to get lost in, and that's what I wanted to create as well, like I said. So
Absolutely. Now, this is a question I don't ask a lot of authors, and I haven't asked in a long time. But if you had to say, what books would you say are comparable to yours, and how would you say your book is maybe different than the standard Romantasy book?
Okay, so I did just say for ACOTAR. So for the people who read it, and I've got reviews back, there's people who are just like, oh, this is ACOTAR vibes and Outlander, because you've obviously got, they're both very well known. You've got ACOTAR, which is the whole fairy world, and you've got Outlander, which is all the Scottish historical and everything. So I think people are going, it's a kind of amalgamation of those 2 vibes. So it's not the same story. It's not like traveling back in time like with Outlander, and it's not the same with ACOTAR. Like, it's, you know, whole different world, whole different idea with the story, and, you know, going through, you know, with the Scottish witch trials. How is my book different? I would say one of the things I did try and do when I was writing the story was I wanted to make my main character a bit older. When you read a lot of Romantasy, one of the things you see is like these young girls who are the main characters. They're just like, I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm 21, and you're just going, I'm just starting my life and everything. You're just going, could you not just put a bit of experience, a bit of, you know, like a bit of like something, like they always turn out to be like super special princesses and amazing things and doing amazing things. When I was 19, I was not doing things like that. So I wanted to create a book where, you know, the main character was a bit older. She has to make life experience. She's gone through some stuff. And so maybe make it a bit more relatable to, you know, people, you know, readers who are reading it and who might be a bit older too. Because like I do that in my books. I'm just going, oh, you're starting this Romantasy and you're just like, oh, she's 19 and she's all naive and she's going into the world and she's a maiden and all these things. And so I actually look out for books where, you know, the main characters are a bit older. They're maybe got a bit more life experience, a bit more interesting. So yeah, that's what I hope sets mine apart. And also the you know, the grounding in the actual historical witch trials as well. I would say that probably sets it apart too. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this is another fan question, and it's been a reoccurring theme that I've been seeing a lot in the publishing community. In your opinion, Jules, what separates a book that is purely Romantasy versus a fantasy book that has romance in it?
So what I heard sets Romantasy apart from regular fantasy is if you take out the romance, there's what's left. So let's say like if you've got like the main character and they don't have that love story in a romantasy, then like it. Sorry, the dogs are trying to bark. Bear with me.
No problem, Jules. No problem.
Yes. So I would say that the difference between fantasy and romantasy is if you take out the romance, then there's not really a story left over. So the main focus would have to be on the romance part of the story rather than on like the rest of what's happening. So I think where like I guess with mine, like you could take out the romance, you could take out the relationship with Law, and she would still get there, she would still do all the things, but I think it adds texture, adds more to the story. Like it gives it something. You've also got the spice as well, which is what a lot of people read romantasy for, a nice bit of spice. I'm not saying everyone does, but it's a nice kind of added bonus for some people. So
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now here's another fan question, which is also a very important question, which I'm going to start asking my guests going forward. And it's something that I've been seeing as well in the publishing industry. And it is books that are mismarketed or for the wrong age group. Now, whether that's through traditional, small press, hybrid, or indie, it's a big thing because there is no, standard when it comes to books. When you have movies, you have a rating system. When you have video games, there's a rating system. Now, I know we shouldn't pigeonhole authors into one style of writing or genre of writing, but when so many books, either on maybe an accidental fault of the author or maybe of the publisher, that are mismarketed for the wrong age group, causes a lot of problems. So, Jules, in your opinion, would having a national rating system for books help or hinder authors?
So I'm not sure if you really need the kind of a rating system, like you get with movies, and not so much. I would just say more whether it's kind of you should be above 18 or like to read a certain book. Just for the whole kind, I would say for the because things get fairly spicy in some of the books, and I don't know. I would say that it's good to have that kind of cutoff and just going, this is for adult content only, and this is YA. And so so my daughter's 8 just now. She's obviously not going to be reading, like that kind of stuff for a while.
Right.
But I would say that for the YA stuff, I'd really like to know what is truly YA. And, I would say you can, go for kissing or, like that kind of stuff. But once you get into the more open door stuff, that should be rated above 18, I would say. And
absolutely.
Again, it's like it's a parent's choice as well. Like you can help guide your kids through things. But I think I've heard from some of the parents as well, like with the kids who are older, 12, 13, 14, they're just going, is this suitable for my child? And if you've read it, you're going, no, that's got way too much spice in it. Your kid shouldn't be reading that. But you're right. There's no way to tell from the cover whether, like it's suitable or not. So yeah, I think a rating system just to go, this is adult content or this is not. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%, Jules, 100%. And now I get into the rapid fire round of the interview. It's probably one of my favorite segments before I get towards the end. Now, here's the first question. Most overrated trope in fiction?
Miscommunication.
Most underrated trope in fiction?
Oh goodness, I don't know. Oh, I don't think I can answer that. Sorry. I love it when I see a trope that I love, but usually when it's an unknown, like it's a not well-known trope, you don't think of it as a trope because you're just like, oh, that's just lovely. I've not seen that before. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
All right. Themes or tropes, which do you prefer in storytelling?
Like I tried to stay away from tropes when I was writing it. Like I saw that they were there, but I didn't want to go, I want there's only one bed, or I didn't want to have to like pigeonhole my book into stories. But still there's always going to be that kind of thing because it's all writing is derivative. Like whatever you're creating, you're kind of subconsciously, absorbed from elsewhere. So sorry, that's not a good question. I'm not good at rapid fire, am I?
You're good, Jules. You're good. You're good. All right, next one. Of the 5,
I don't know. I find they're all like pretty good. See, this is bad. Don't give me rapid fire questions. So I'm just thinking about when I'm writing it, and like you can do touch, because like you can do hearing, and you can do smells and sounds, because it all adds like that texture. Oh, I don't know. Taste, probably taste. No, I don't know. Pass on that one too. I'm sorry.
Taste is a pretty good one. Taste is a pretty good one, because especially if you're living in a fantasy world, how are you going to make someone really understand, what a certain, if it's a completely made up food, how would you expect them to like imagine how it would taste? So taste is a pretty good answer. Now we get into some of my personal favorite ones. Next question. If you had the choice and had the unlimited budget, would you rather adapt your book into a limited series or a full audiobook production?
No question, audiobook.
All right. Now, this is a follow-up, and this may put you on the spot a little bit, Jules, so I apologize in advance. If you had to pick narrators for, let's say, the main leads in your book, who would they be? And you could either be someone that you may have seen on social media and like in an ad, or just someone that you've heard, or you can be an actor too, who also does audiobooks.
It's because I do love audiobooks. I get totally lost in them, but so many people do the Scottish accent bad. So it would need to be someone who is actually Scottish, because I've very rarely hear someone who's able to do like a Scottish accent and they're not Scottish. So do you know, I can't remember her name. It's have you watched Trainspotting?
A little bit, yes.
So there's the young girl in that, Kelly. She's gone through a whole bunch of stuff. She was in Boardwalk Empire, things like that too, but she's quite a well-known Scottish actress. I'm just terrible at names. So her, I love her, the way that she talks. I think she'd do a good job. I don't know, because there's so many of the male narrators I love. I don't know. It would have to be one of the big ones. It would have to be, like Joe Arden or Corvin King or Teddy Hamilton, like all those. You're just going, I love their work. It's amazing. So yeah, one of those ones for the main male character.
Absolutely. And I can also throw my own hat into this discussion. Female narrator, I think will be really good for the female lead. Will actually be my friend Tegan Burke, who lives in Australia. She's also a fantastic narrator who specializes in accents. So I think she would be a perfect casting choice. Mm-hmm. And then also for male narration, I may be biased here, but I can't help it. Working with him has been the best. Luke Bromley from the UK. He's an incredible, not only just narrator, but also actor and theater actor as well. So I would definitely throw my hat in the ring for those two for an audiobook production of your work. And now, this one's kind of a little more fun one, Jules. Which would you rather have in your audiobook production? An original song sung at the beginning or end of the production, or have an original score composed for the production?
That's something I've never really thought about. I would say an original song, because it would be something that you like if you got a song, you get it stuck in your head, then you think of my book, and yeah, those things. So
all right, nice, very nice. Now this one's probably the most challenging, Jules. In your opinion, which is more difficult for an author to deal with towards the end of the book process, the drafting process? Knowing when to stop editing or knowing when to stop writing?
Oh, knowing when to stop editing. Like I knew the book. I knew when the book was finished. I was just going beginning to end. It's like it's written. This is where I want my story to be. But you could literally edit until the end of time, and you still find things you want to change. So, it was yeah, it's going for a point where going, it's good, it's a good book, stop, put it down. So yeah, like that's what I'm going through just now with the second book, is trying to get it trying to just get it to the point where it's polished, it's done, I'm happy with sending out in the world, but also just going, that's enough, stop, move on to something else. So
Absolutely. Now, next one. Can you give some shout outs to some of the people that you have collaborated with in terms of, marketing your book, who have been your biggest supporters, and just all around incredible people you have met on your journey?
So the biggest supporters are going to always be my family. So my mum and dad and my two sisters, they read that original version when I thought it was finished, and it wasn't. And then they read it again afterwards. And then, when it came out, then they're, like they bought a whole bunch of copies. And, so my mum bought 5. I was just like, why do you need 5? I would give you some for free. And she was like, I just want to give them to all the people I know. And I've had another few friends who are like that too. One of my friends, she lives down in Melbourne, which is about, it's about 10-hour drive away, but a couple hours on the plane. She came up for the launch. Like, that was amazingly supportive. She bought 5 books so she could take them all home and give them home to her friends and family. And then I guess for people that I've met through, like, it's one of the things with the social. So you've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, and you spend a lot of time doing your marketing, everything like that. But it's actually, you meet quite some like amazing other authors and people in the industry and readers through it as well. So yeah, you can kind of get a bit jaded with saying, oh, I've got to do marketing and promoting through socials and it's hard work and everything like that. But you do actually, like, if you can get yourself involved, you can meet some really amazing people. So as I was saying, I met my friend Tara through Instagram, and so she's going to help me with promoting the second book. And then there's another friend who I met recently because I was doing an author giveaway through I got to take over like a book groups channel for an hour, and I did some giveaways. And then so she was like, she just has this amazing energy for books, and so we've started chatting online as well. And she's saying that she's getting into writing books too, and so I read a copy of like what she's written so far, and I think it's just like it's really nice to be able to make those connections. You've got your support, but then you're also making amazing connections as well. So within the industry, and it's always good to make new good bookish friends. So.
Incredibly true, Jules. Incredibly true. And now for our final question to wrap up this incredible author's interview. At the end of the day, Jules, what do you want people, or what do you hope readers will take away from this book? And what is your word of wisdom to our fellow authors and fellow writers listening to this interview right now?
From takeaway, so after they've read my book, and that's what they get from it. I think it's just what I've been talking about. It's just that escape. So you're just going, I completely fell into a book. I fell into this book. I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the escape. I loved all the feelings, getting to feel all those feelings. Like, that's what I love about writing. And so that's what I hope that they take away from it as well. My tip for other authors, get someone else to read your reviews. Because there's some people who are out there just to be, like, I think that they just enjoy being mean. They're not giving anything constructive, and it can like kill you. You're just like, I don't feel like writing anymore, and it's just completely done me down. If you can get a really good friend to read your reviews first, they'll pass over like the good ones and the ones with constructive criticism, the ones that can help you. That would be, I would say that's a good thing for like baby authors. So.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And on that note, viewers and listeners, we conclude this amazing and incredible author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I want to give a huge thank you to Jules for coming on the show, making her official debut on the channel, and hopefully not the last. Now, Jules, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out and connect, as well as buy a copy of your book?
So you can get my book on Amazon or through Ingram. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. It's Jules Dalla on TikTok and Jules Dalla Libera author on Instagram.
I will link all that down below in the description of this video, viewers and listeners. Thank you again for joining us for another amazing episode here on the channel. A huge thank you to Jules for coming on the show. And if you'd like to see her back on the channel for a follow-up interview, like this video, comment down below, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. And as always, this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, signing out. Wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Happy Friday, everybody, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Take care and have a wonderful day.